Hello and welcome to More Hawker, the channel where you just get more of me. You get even more of me. But essentially, okay, the real reason I'm doing this is because I want to put more highly edited content on the main channel, split it up, and just have more of these, more unedited, just general thoughts on Counter-Strike on this channel. But who knows? Maybe you'll get more of me physically as well. Like, oh, you've never seen this low before, have you? What? Wait, hang on. Oh my God. You wouldn't get that on the main channel. That's my foot, boys. Ladies and gentlemen, that is my foot. You would not get that on the main channel. So there you go. It was already worth it. Okay, for free? I'm giving out the dogs for free? Ain't no way. But okay, let's get into the first game we're talking about, which is Mouz M80. I want to do this for most of like the playoff games and just occasional updates on teams. Here in this one, I think it's mainly worth talking about M80 because I'm going to be honest, guys, with Mouz, even though I'm wearing their colors, I feel like I know Mouz. I feel like we all know Mouz, right? Like, you look at the lineup, yeah, look at me, we're pretty good. Oh, we're like, you know, clearly a top 5 team and we're consistently pretty good and we don't have that much aura, right? That's Mouz, okay? You know, you got Spinks, very good. Torji, good. It's weird because I like these guys. Like, I like Spinks. I like Torji. You know, I quite like Yimfat for his gameplay. I quite like Exertion's gameplay. And, you know, Brolan's there too, I guess. He exists. Sorry, Brolan, you know. I mean, he had that interview one time where his hands look really weird behind him. But yeah, like, I look at this team and, like, I kind of like the players. But then as a team, like, they haven't got that one guy that excites me, you know. I don't know what it is. Don't know what it is about Mouz. Anyway, I think it's worth talking about M80 more because they did very well to make it here. And I got to say, they were pretty decent, man. And I'm going to be honest with you. I still think the main takeaway for this M80 team is, for me, Sin is like, he's next up as an in-game leader. For a while, I thought he has potential to get put on like a really top team. I think this guy is super solid. Like, his stats are pretty decent in this series, for example. His stats are pretty decent in general. Remember, these are all inflated numbers for M80 because they play a lot of NA teams. But I digress. He's a pretty decent fragger as an in-game leader as well. And just look at this lineup, right? Like, this lineup here with Hexed, Slacks, Lake, and Swisher. This is not a lineup that should be, like, you know, beating Fnatic, Na'Vi, VP, like, doing okay against Vitality and getting a map off them and actually pushing them somewhat close on the decider. This is impressive stuff. I think overall in this series, for me, Hexed is often the X factor for this team. And he's been better lately, and he's quite a big risk taker. And I'll be completely honest. When they first picked up Hexed, I didn't really see it. I've always thought he's like just so streaky as a player, and his highs weren't really good enough to warrant it. But I think he's actually getting like a little more consistent with his impact. And there's some rounds, like there was a round where it was a 3v3 and they're on CT side, and he just makes an information play and a push. And he's starting to do that more at sort of the right times, I feel. Like, I feel he's actually getting a bit more structure to his game, which I really like. So, yeah, I think as a risk taker, he helps on the team. And also, he's kind of like a support player to me on this team. Like, he doesn't really play a lot of the most important positions. So, I think that's the sort of role where if you can have really big highs, it can kind of work. I think Lake he was okay in this series. He had that one Dooley's ace. I do think he had a pretty big overperformance in the groups to get them here. Like, let's be honest. I don't think he's that guy consistently. I don't think he's suddenly M80's go-to guy. And that's probably what they lack on this team. Like, you look down the lineup, there's no player that I'm like, yes, you're consistently going to be at the top of the scoreboard. I don't think they quite have that, right? And you saw Lake here. It is maybe like the closest to that. And here he didn't even do all that well. Slacks, I think, is just your bog standard, pretty good AWPer. For a team like M80, he's actually a very good AWPer to have. So I think they'll be happy, considering normally you think of M80 as a team that aren't going to get that near to playoffs. I think Slacks is the sort of AWPer that can be like in and around like 15th best team in the world and be good enough for that sort of level. Swisher is the one that's a real shame, man. I really liked him on this team for a while. There was a while where M80 had a lineup that was pretty garbage, right? They had like 2 good players and Swisher was one of them. And it felt like he had to do so much and they would come to pro leagues and he was like a real standout and he looked so smart with how he played. And I really thought like if they arranged a better squad around him that he could really start to go on and do well. And I quite like his decision making. He seems generally like he knows what he's doing, but I just wonder, like, if he's got what it takes, if he's cut out fully for the top level of play at Counter-Strike. That's the scary thing for me. Like, I think he can be good for a decent NA team, but seeing M80 go on runs like this, you're kind of like wanting them to push on and maybe get an upgrade, right? And really like press forward. Yeah, I'm not sure if he'll take that next step. I mean, I'd be curious, actually. Let's look at all these players and just see how they do against top competition compared to regional competition, because I do want to quickly look at the roles and show you Slacks, for example, like, oh, hello. Nope. I can't show you the roles, apparently, because this has just decided to fuck me. So that's good. That's cool. Let's go ahead and refresh this. Get the M80 team up here. Because essentially what it's going to show you is that Lake is kind of in the best roles on the team. And I think he performs like okay, considering that's the case. But I also think this is a team that clearly don't set up one clear standout like star player, right? Like, that's not how the team functions. But you can see that Lake, very good on CT side in general, overperforms what he should be doing. Maybe slightly under on T side, but not the end of the world. You can see Hexed, often in kind of supportive roles, in kind of the weaker roles on the team. This actually claims his roles should get him worse stats than Sin. So that kind of shows you on CT side, like, he's in quite a lot of the tough roles. But then you see here, you know, Swisher, he's doing slightly better normally on CT side, not quite as good on T side. It's like, I don't know, there were a few moments where I felt like he needed a bit more like confidence and just to quickly get a trade kill, and it just didn't happen, right? And you see also, like, he's listed as the closer. That's the roles that he sort of is in, you know, according to this, which I think I agree with. And it's like, that's the sort of position where having an experienced player and having a player who can perform under pressure feels almost like most important, because you can really easily start to overthink in that scenario. I just wonder whether that's part of what's happening and whether they need a proper good closer. The problem I have is, if I were M80, right, I would be trying really hard to get Elige right now. If you can get Elige, that would be crazy, because you look at it, okay, Elige obviously benched on FaZe. You look at Liquid, which is the obvious place he would go. Where does he fit on this team? You've got Nerds and Twists. The obvious player you want to change here is Naf, based on his recent form. But, like, Elysian for Naf? Roles-wise, that feels like it does not work. Maybe Nerds and Twists can pick up the pieces, sort of. But, like, I don't know, man. It feels a little awkward, doesn't it? So, maybe Liquid could try and make that work. But if M80 wanted to go balls out, they could try. I think the problem is, it looks like Elige wanted to move to Europe, right? And wanted to pursue more. And if he gets an option there, I think he'd take that at this point, because he's already tried coming back to NA and playing on complexity, and that just didn't work, right? It didn't get him the success he wanted. So I think it's going to be very hard to convince Elige to come to this team. Either way, let's look at these stats. Let's look at these stats, because obviously we had what I would say was a big overperformance from Lake to get them here. But let's look just this year. So you can see they're going to have very good numbers in general, just because they play against weak NA teams a lot. So I want to look down here and, okay, yeah, this kind of shows me a bit what I thought. Like, against top 10 opponents, that's a pretty bad rating to have. And they will be losing a lot of those games, so that's part of it. And weirdly, against top 5 opponents, it goes up way more. But that's a pretty big drop-off. Like, I would not be surprised if that's the biggest drop-off. 1.19 for... Yeah, dude, Lake actually holds up pretty decently. Like, considering they're losing a lot of these games, I assume, a 1.07 against top 10 opponents is pretty damn good. That's solid, actually. Sin, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't drop off, like, too terribly. Okay, it's a pretty big drop-off, but it's your in-game leader, man. And also, again, these are, like, fine numbers for your in-game leader, right? Down to a 0.95 against top 10. You don't hate that. Slacks... That's actually quite a big drop-off for Europa. You kind of want Europa to be doing a bit better than this, I would say. So, okay, maybe something to look at there. Maybe Slacks isn't quite as good as I was thinking. And then Hexed. Oh my god, Hexed. That's an insane drop-off. And this is what I was saying, okay? Initially, I was not really feeling this move, but you've got to remember, a lot of that Hex time is going to be on that previous lineup he was on, EG, I think it was. Not EG, sorry. NRG. That's the one. So, like... NRG were getting kind of owned in a lot of events, so it probably partly comes down to that. But yeah, listen, I think I'm kind of turned around slightly on Hexed. I really liked what I saw from him here. He does have that high-risk playstyle, though, so we will see. M80 overall, listen, you got to be happy with this tournament. And as I was saying, I'm telling you guys, Sin, I'm going to say by the end of 2026, Sin's going to be on a pretty top organization. He's going to be surrounded by some pretty good players. And if it's not a top organization, it'll be like an exciting European team that are up and coming, like a Heroic or something. That's what I see. That's what I see for him going forward. I really think he's good enough to do that because his fragging is fine. And again, he keeps pretty consistently bringing this team to levels that I didn't think they would be able to reach, right? Obviously, we had first map was close. Mouz able to win it. Second map, M80, they started incredibly well before Mouz started to come back, but it was a little too late. Third map was a bit of a blowout, unfortunately. On the Mouz side, is there much to say? It doesn't feel like there's that much to say. I mean, I still think something that goes a bit under the radar is Mouz getting Spinks is kind of such a coup for them, right? Like, I feel like the only way they were able to get a player who's like a real standout on their team, because for me, Spinks is a real standout and he is a reliable guy. I always bring this up. You want a go-to guy. You want your guy where you look at him and you say, I never have any doubts. I never have any worries about this one player. He's going to show up, and if the rest of us show up, we'll be fine too. Spinks is that guy for Mouz. Like, he's that good. And I think it's kind of telling that Mouz only get that sort of player off the back of him kind of being benched on Vitality and maybe not having clear suitors at that time. But they got him. That's the main thing. And he's just really good. Like, he's just so reliable for this team, so consistent. Torji, I think, slightly still goes under the radar as an AWPer. He's a really good AWPer at this level. Brolan, obviously, we know, just as an in-game leader, his fragging's always going to be pretty good. We'll see if long-term his in-game leading holds up. So far, it's been good enough. Yimfat's definitely had a drop-off this year, but you've got to remember, a drop-off for him is like still being pretty good in his supportive roles, because he was, in the past, such an absurd overperformer in the roles he was playing. I guess the one I'm keeping an eye on is Exertion, because I do feel like the thing is, his role is inherently going to make it harder to perform in playoff games and in big games sometimes. And his aggressive playstyle is just generally going to be a bit more inconsistent. But I kind of feel like whenever they hit playoffs, whenever they hit big matches, he drops off a little more often than not for me. I kind of feel that. The tough thing is, he's still an incredible player in general, and especially like in group stages, right? He's probably like a top 20 player of the year. He's a very good player for Mouz. So it's a tough one, but I think he's someone, I got my eyes on him, okay? I got my eyes on him. I want to keep an eye out and see how he does going forwards. Okay, let's move on to FaZe G2. This one, I think most people expected G2 to win, and I did too, and they got there. They got the job done. And I think the main thing on this G2 roster, actually, the first thing I want to say, Saw is just such a good coach, clearly. Right? You got Saw on this lineup. Let's look at this dude's Liquipedia, okay? I was looking this up earlier. It's the wrong Saw. It's the wrong Saw, but we tried. Let's look up the real Saw, okay? What has he done? Ents from 2020 to 2023. Just look at some of the results Ents had under this guy. They got to the semi-finals of Antwerp, guys. Right? Like, he got incredible results for this team. Then he goes to Heroic. They weren't exactly, like, incredible throughout this entire time period, but they were clearly outperforming what they had, right? From basically 2024 until mid-2025. Like, let's look at how Heroic were during that time period. You can see here, like, he joins around this time, actually. They get up to... Okay, this is Sangal. We can't look at this. This time period, here we go. Is this when he joins? Oh, yeah, it is, because he joined with this new roster. Yeah, pretty quickly get up to, like, 10th in the world. Dancing around, you know, eventually get back up to, like, top 15 team with this lineup that just looks like it's nowhere near that good, right? Like, overall, I think a very impressive, just general performance from Saw as a coach. And, dude, the amount of times... He takes a timeout and G2 just immediately go on to win like 4 rounds in a row. It just can't be a coincidence at this point, right? And you look at his history down here. G2, this is the first time he's getting an opportunity on a top organization. And I think the question always was, okay, is he just that guy who can do really well with bad pieces? Can he actually do it for like a top team? I think he can. I think he's showing that already. I really think G2 are pretty damn legit. and we look at these maps, dude, Inferno, I think any team should be concerned against G2 on Inferno right now. I think it suits them so well. Because if we talk about this team and how I view them right now, Heavy God, this guy is just very good at what he does. He's such a good anchor. He's just such a solid player all around. Like, you look here, CT side, he did fine. He was actually even better on T side, which is fantastic to see. This guy's legit. This is clearly a very legit pickup, right? Mattis, I'm maybe even slightly more excited about him because he is not that experienced, okay? Let me look at Mattis. I want to see how many like big events has he played before this team. Because he's always been someone who's excited me and he's never quite had a good team around him. Big events, he's played at a couple of pro leagues with a shitty Fnatic. He played at Cologne and did all right. And he played at the Esports World Cup. Like, he doesn't have anywhere near as much experience. And he's already having those rounds where he gets like a 3K or a big multi-kill in a really important round. His aim is just so snappy. Like, I think this guy is really good. I think he could be the player that eventually steps up to be their real main man. Because I think with Heavy God's roles, his current output is very good, and it's hard to expect more for him, right? I would say if you're asking Heavy God to consistently be the top fragger on this team, I don't think in the roles he has, that should be expected. I think he is already doing incredibly well. And in fact, again, if you look at the old Nero positions chart, his CT rolls are bad, man. Like, he's expected to get a 0.99 rating on CT side. He does way better than that. And on T side, they're about average, you know? But you can see, like, according to the roles that he's in, Nero's thing has him listed as a support player, right? That's insane. This guy is crazy good, right? Crazy, crazy good. Then you have a Mattis, who I was talking about, more of a closer. Again, not actually given like incredible CT positions necessarily, but still doing a good job. Very, very good. Just better than you would expect on both sides. I think these two are going to take this team far. And the other thing is, right, look at this lineup. Mattis, Sunpius, Mouz, Heavy God, Hunter. This is such a well-rounded fragging lineup. And this is why coming into this game, I was pretty convinced they beat FaZe. Just because the firepower is way too good across the board for a FaZe team that are just like not on that level firepower-wise. Right? So Mattis, I think he can be next up. I really, really like him. Hunter, okay, I think his stats were slightly inflated in this game. Like, he did really well in a couple of pistol rounds, etc. But he is still fragging, okay? And if Hunter frags like this well, if he's just a pretty good fragger, which he has been, like if we look at this G2, okay, let's just go with their current lineup, 26 maps played. If he frags like this, 1.04 rating, you do not need to be that good of an in-game leader, right? If you're just an okay in-game leader, if you're just good enough to get a rough plan and get your team on the same page, you go. That is great. Like, that is incredible. And in a weird way, we've talked about Hunter transitioning to an in-game leader for so long, and some people will feel like he should have done it sooner, but I actually think this is the perfect time. This is an incredible time because firstly, he has Saw with him. I think that's huge, right? If the game ever gets too much, if the game ever gets intense, which it did on Dust 2, and I think some of his calls are a bit off, Saw can come in and take a timeout and really help out. And long term, I think he can also help Hunter out a lot. I really think that's the case. And secondly, we've seen that in the current meta, it feels like having a pretty good fragging in-game leader is very, very important. And Hunter is always going to be that, right? And also, speaking on Inferno, I actually think his calling on Inferno is fantastic. And I was touching on this earlier. That's why I think Inferno is going to be a very scary, scary map for anyone facing G2, right? And I will also say that the other thing that they have is Heavy God being such an insane anchor is huge, right? It's huge because having good anchors on Inferno will just win you the game. We know that on Inferno, if you've got a crap anchor, if you're playing matchmaking and you're playing on A and your boys are losing B every round, you're screwed. You can't do anything. So having someone like Heavy God makes such a difference because you can just put him in pit and say, Heavy God, sit there. I know you've got it. I'm going to go elsewhere. And there were rounds where that would happen, by the way. There were genuinely rounds in like a 4v4 where G2, they had a somewhat of a read that they thought it would be a B play. And they said in the 4v4, let's just stack 3B and put Heavy God in pit and just trust that he's going to lock it down. What a big thing to have. And that coupled with the calling of Hunter being good on that map. And also, Mouz didn't have a great map here. On Inferno, on T side, he literally took the opening duel in 11 out of their 12 T rounds. This dude just flies up banana. He gets traded pretty often. And by the way, just to go and show this, like on T side, Mouz had 80 ADR despite going 7 for 9. Like, he was flying up banana and going for entries a hell of a lot, and he would generally get traded. So I think that shows you that it's a map that still suits him, even if the numbers don't look insane. I think Mouz is good at what he does. The only player that is struggling on this team, and you would have seen earlier, it's Pius. I didn't expect this. I thought this was going to be a very good opportunity for Pius to turn around, but a 0.98 rating for your AWPer, it's not great. It's not great. I do think with Pius, as I look at him, you keep him for the season for sure. And I just get the feeling that eventually he will start to turn it around and have a bit more impact, because he is missing a few easy shots. He's never really having too many big highlight rounds either to make up for that. But you look at his history, okay? This is Pius' whole career. There's a big period here between like 2024, even 2022, where he never really dips below this sort of region where he's about at a 1.10. Like, you look at this line, that's generally where he tends to be. He had a pretty good period actually just previous to getting onto this team. Now he's down at like a 1.00. This feels like quite a low dip compared to normal. I'd expect him to stabilize and get back up there. I think you keep him for the season. I think you even probably keep him for the season after, because I just think long-term, he just passes the eye test in general. Normally, he looks like a pretty good AWPer. I'm willing to just say he's in bad form right now. But man, if he can sort himself out, this G2 team will be scary. I do think on Dust 2, it got a little concerning. But the fact that they were able to come through and win that and ride through that in the overtimes, it shows me something that's good. Like, at least we're going to get some reps here from Hunter having to learn in an intense overtime game. Again, some of his calls in overtime were maybe a bit off. But overall, looks pretty damn good, right? And G2 winning 8 T rounds in Inferno, that is so exciting. Because they should be a team, in my opinion, that are monsters on the CT side with the talent across the board they have. Okay, let's talk about FaZe. I mean, we'll start with Jacob, who I thought was going to be the main player I talked about in this series. And I'm going to say Jacob was probably at about my level of expectations. Now, normally that would be a good thing, because normally I have pretty good expectations for signings to someone like FaZe. Unfortunately, my expectations were that Jacob was just a pretty good player at the lower level and that he wouldn't really be all that good at this level and that he wouldn't really be that player. He's not like that super exciting player that so many people wanted from tier 2 and tier 3. He's just like a pretty good player at that level. And so many times I've seen teams do this and they pick up that sort of player and he's just like not that good. And I'm sorry, I think that's where Jacob's at right now. And maybe that's to be expected. It's still early. He's still got time to grow. He's still got time to learn. But in this game, like, the best I can say about him is for long stretches of time, he just looked fine and he didn't really have much impact, but he didn't really do much wrong. But there were times, I think especially towards the end of Dust 2, I felt like he got stuck on the same amount of kills for so long in those overtimes, right? It felt like he struggled a bit. There were times, I think, where he was just missing basic smokes as well. They pointed out on the desk. Not great. Not great. And I think you look at FaZe, for me, the only reason they really got here was a pretty big performance from Brokey in the previous stage, which I don't think will quite continue. I think Brokey's a pretty good AWPer. I think he's good enough for FaZe, but he's like good enough on a team where you also have very, very good riflers. This FaZe team doesn't have that, right? They have Frozen, who, by the way, I love Frozen. Frozen's my guy. Seriously. Okay? I mean, it might be partly because I did like a demo review on Frozen as one of my first ever videos like 8 years ago. And I think he was like 13 at the time. Like, how old is Frozen now? He's 23. So he's probably 14 or 15 when I did this review on him. So I'm kind of a Frozen OG fan. You know, I got, what can I say? I got my scouting eyes out. I didn't really know what I was talking about 8 years ago, by the way. But still, I got my scouting eyes out. But yeah, I really do think that Frozen is very good. On Inferno, dude, I was sitting watching this Inferno game, and low-key, I was sitting there thinking, can we have Karrigan and Rain on this team? Like, is that going to work? Are these guys just a bit too old? Is it just Dunzo? Like, that was a genuine consideration I was having, right? And to be fair, Rain has actually had a bit of an uptick in form recently, so it's not as bad as you'd think. But, dude, Karrigan, brother, these are like Hunden numbers, man. These are like so bad, right? And it's tough because I think if you've got Karrigan on your team putting up these numbers, he needs to be the best in-game leader in the world by some distance. He needs to. And I'm sorry, some of the stuff that I expect from Karrigan, that first map, for example, it was pretty obvious G2 were picking Inferno, right? Karrigan at his best, he's got some tricks. He's got some ways to counter you. I saw none of that. I saw none of that here, right? And the question for me is always, when you've got Karrigan and Rain, are these just two players that really are just mostly just going to try and grind and put in the work for the biggest tournaments? Because, like, does Karrigan care much about Blast London? Like, he's 35. He's won majors. He's won so much. Rain, 31. Similar story. Like, I don't know. I guess that's why they got Jacob in, to try and inject some like excitement and some drive into the team for these sorts of events as well. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man. I also think I haven't really talked about... Oh, no, I've talked about pretty much everyone. But yeah, FaZe, they're in a weird spot. I think, again, you judge them based on the biggest events, right? And so, if anything, the fact they make the playoffs here, it kind of comes away as a win for them, right? Like, you beat Na'Vi. That's good. You did well enough. You did well enough, for sure. And as always, I'm going to judge FaZe in the biggest events. But another thing is, like, if I've got Karrigan on my team, I want to be winning these really close games a lot of the time. Because for me, that is where Karrigan's calls should be at their best. That is what you have Karrigan for. When a game devolves into that, normally Karrigan is the best at finding solutions and finding ways to win rounds. And to be fair, the second map is what actually sort of saved Karrigan. Like, he actually had a good fragging performance. And if he didn't have that, I would be way more down on him right now. But at the same time, bro, FaZe cannot be losing a Dust 2 where Karrigan is top fragging, and it's a close game in overtime where you'd expect his calls to be very good, and I think he did call better than Hunter. You can't be losing a game like that, FaZe, right? Like, it can't just be me that's thinking that, right? Like, that's tough. That's tough. Maybe they'll get better, right? They only recently brought Jacob in. But there is that small feeling that scares me that they might just be a bit past their best at this point. We'll see, though. That is my recap. That are my thoughts from Blast London. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know if you enjoyed this type of video, and I'll catch you next time.